It's been a minute since I've done a dedicated eyeshadow tutorial for hooded eyes, so that's exactly what I did today. I also just feel like I've been seeing more and more people post about getting blepharoplasties. Did I say that right? I might have said it right. I keep struggling with that word, which is basically surgery to remove your hooded eyes and that extra skin. And while I totally get the appeal of why someone would want to do that, and no shame to anyone who has had that done, but I also think there are so many makeup techniques out there that can give you that lifted, wide awake look. So let's zoom in and I'm going to show you how to do this eye look for hooded eyes. So I wanted to show you what my eyes look like completely bare. I also have no eyebrow makeup on right now as well. And I also have no Botox in my face. I usually am someone who regularly gets Botox, but I've just been taking a little bit of a break. So I have a lot of movement in my face and my eyebrows, and because of that, because the Botox isn't like lifting that up, it does kind of make my eyes look a little bit more hooded. I'm really trying to like completely relax my face, but I do just kind of naturally lift up my brows when I talk. But the goal today is to do an easy eye look for hooded eyes that is just going to help accentuate and kind of make your eyes look a little bit wider, a little bit more open and lifted. Let's zoom in and get close here. So I think the first step is filling in your brows, because your brows really do help to frame your face and your eyes. And by filling in your brows and giving them a little bit of an arch, it's really going to help just kind of make your eyes look more open. So I'm going to show you how I've been filling in my brows. You can see naturally I do have quite a bit of brow hairs. I also have some old microblading in them as well. But I like to start with this brow lamination gel from Thrive Cosmetics. It's a really strong hold clear brow gel. So I like to brush this through all of my hairs, and you can see I'm kind of lifting them upwards as I do it. I also really like how this kind of separates my brow hairs and really just gives them that fluffy look. I'm gonna let that brow gel dry before I move on to the next step. So once that brow gel is dry, I'm gonna take a brow pencil. This one's by Anastasia. I'm using the shade medium brown. And I'm gonna start by kind of lining this inner front part of my brow. And then I don't really need much filling in the center of my brow here, just because it's already really full as it is. I'm also going to line the outer part of my tail. And then I'm also going to fill in a little bit of this upper arch area. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my concealer on a flat brush, and I'm going to use this just to kind of clean up this tail area and almost kind of lift it. I do also have a pimple growing right here, so this is also going to help conceal that. So you don't need to put concealer around your entire eyebrow, really just on this outer tail area. And then I like to take a brow pen. This one is by NYX, and I like to draw just a couple hair-like strokes in the front of my brow. Alright, so now my brow is filled in. You can just see the quick before and after here. So by filling in your brow and kind of having them brushed upwards with that little bit of concealer underneath really does help give that lifted effect. Since we're doing eyeshadow today, you're definitely going to want to apply an eyeshadow primer. This one is my favorite. It's by Rare Beauty. I like this one a lot because it's really lightweight on the eyelid and it has a very subtle tint to it, so it does help hide any discoloration on my eyelids. And especially for hooded eyes, you want to start with this nice clean base where everything is kind of the same color, because we're going to be adding in the shadows and the contour with eyeshadow. And then I'm just taking any loose translucent powder to set that primer in place. I'm using the Huda Beauty loose powder in Poundcake. So now my eyelid is primed, it is ready for shadow, and I hope you can see too, by applying that primer and powder, my eyelid again just looks so much brighter compared to where I started. For my matte shadows today, I'm going to be using this mini eye sculpt palette by Natasha Denona. I love the shades in this palette. It's so simple and it also makes a perfect gradient. So for hooded eyes or slightly hooded eyes like mine, the issue is this extra fold of skin that covers up part of your eyelid. So when we're placing shadow, we don't want to place shadow where that fold is, because your fold's just going to cover it up. What we want to do is create the illusion of a higher crease, so we're going to place the shadow a little bit higher than that fold in your eye. The brush I'm going to start with is a Sigma E27. It's kind of just like a really small crease brush. brush. You've seen me use this brush a lot on my channel. It's the E25, so the E27 is just a slightly smaller version. And especially with hooded eyes, when we want to be a little bit more precise, I think this size is absolutely perfect. So I'm gonna pick up the shade Light from the Natasha Denona palette, and you want to pick this up on the tip of the brush. You want to look straight into a mirror. I'm gonna look straight into my viewfinder, and again, I'm placing it above that natural fold, so I'm gonna go about right here and just start to wiggle that brush back and forth to lay down this shadow. And I'm gonna start with pretty small motions here. And I'm just gonna slowly build this up. So I grabbed a little bit more shadow. I'm gonna go in this inner crease area, but again, I'm still keeping it really high up in my crease. So again, I'm picking up a little bit more shadow and I'm staying above the fold in my eyelid. And this shade is pretty light, but it's a really good base to start with, and you can deepen it up as you go. I want to deepen mine up a little bit, so now I'm going to pick up the medium shade. And again, I'm picking up that shadow on the tip of this brush. So placing the brush above that fold in my eye and just starting to wiggle it back and forth to create that new crease. So I'm feeling pretty good with how this kind of new crease is looking. Now I'm picking up a little bit more of the medium shade, but this time I have the shadow kind of more on the side of the brush. And I'm gonna add this to the very outer V of my eye. So I kind of start with the light stamping motion, and then I'm dragging it outwards towards my brow. So you want to drag this upwards because again, we're going for the illusion of a lifted eye. Now for the eyelid, we want to keep this area nice and bright. So for this, you could use like a light shimmer on your eyelid if you're someone that likes a shimmer shadow, or you can totally use a matte eyeshadow, which is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take the shade Fair in the palette and I'm switching to a packing brush. So I'm gonna pack this on my eyelid to keep this nice and bright. And then I'm bringing it up a little bit higher to be right underneath that new crease that I made. And I'm just gonna go back to that small crease brush and kind of soften out any edges around that fair shadow. That light shadow really does help to kind of bring the eyelid forward because we're putting the lightest shade on it. Now I want to add just a little bit of a highlight shade, and for that I'm going to go into my palette with Sigma, just because this has my favorite highlight shade in it. It's called Bright. So I'm taking a little bit of that shadow on a small smudge brush, and I'm going to place this right below my brow, just so that when the light hits this, it makes this area look even more lifted. And then also placing that in my inner corner because I love an inner corner highlight. Now I want to show you how I do my under eye concealer to also help with that lifted look. I'm taking my favorite concealer. It's the Natasha Denona one. I have the shade R2. I'm going to place a little dot in here because this is where I need some concealing. Then I'm also going to do a little line on this outer part of my eye. So I'm not touching the shadow. I'm pretty far away from it at this point. Now I'm going to blend this out with my fluffy concealer brush. So I'm going to start with this inner part of my concealer, kind of patting that out, making sure I get towards this inner part of my eye. And then once I get to this outer part of my concealer, I'm kind of moving it around a little bit to kind of make a line, and I'm slowly going to bring this line closer and closer to my shadow to kind of clean it up a little bit. But that's why I started with the concealer kind of far away from my eye at first, is I'll just softly bring it towards the shadow because I don't want to make too harsh of a line. And it also kind of helps me to visualize following the angle of my lower lash line going outwards. Now I'm going to set my under eye with powder. I'm using that same Huda Beauty powder I used earlier. And now my lower lash line is ready for a little bit of shadow. So I like to add just a little bit of definition to the lower lash line. So going back to my small crease brush, I'm going to take the shade Light. Again, I picked up that shadow on the tip of the brush, and I'm just going to wiggle that along my entire lower lash line. You definitely could make the lower lash line a little bit deeper if you want to, but I just want a little bit of definition. Now I'm curling my lashes with the Shiseido lash curler. And for mascara, I'm going to apply the e.l.f. Lash and Roll. This is my favorite drugstore mascara. And I've really been liking the look of no mascara on the bottom lashes. Personally, I just think my eyes look a little bit more lifted and wider without it. Now for eyeliner. So if you have hooded eyes or slightly hooded eyes, you probably don't have a lot of lid space, so you don't want to fill up that space with liner, right? So I like to do just a little bit of tight lining, and I like to use a dark brown for this. This is Makeup Forever Limitless Brown. So I'm going to tight line the entire area under my lashes, and I like to bring it pretty much all the way in towards my inner corner. So that is a super easy way to add definition to the lash line without taking up any real estate on your eyelids. And this also helps to make your lashes look thicker at the base. Now you can totally do it just mascara if you want, but I want to talk about lashes really quick because I do have a pair of lashes that I think are perfect for hooded eyes. They're by my brand, The Bright Lashes, and the style is called Whisper. So these are a little half lash that are significantly shorter than your typical eyelash. So because they're shorter, they're not going to overpower your eye, they're not going to touch your eyebrow. And because it's a half lash, it's going to add even more lift to the outer corner of your eye, which is what we're going for. So I'm not going to do any trimming to the lash. I'm going to apply it exactly how it is out of the box. I brushed on a thin layer of lash glue, and now I'm going to let that get a little bit tacky for like 30 seconds. And then for applying the lash, I'm going to look down into a mirror and apply it on the outer part of my top lash line, as close to my natural lashes as possible. So you can totally see just the amount of volume and lift that adds to the outer corner of the eye. And I just love how this lash doesn't look like it's too much. Like, it's very wearable for every day or even special occasions. All right, and that is the final close-up of the eyeshadow look. And here is my eye completely relaxed. So you can see that my light shadow does hit above that natural fold in my eye, right below that new crease that I made. I have a little bit of definition of shadow on the outer corner, but also this lash I feel like adds so much to the look as well. And just to remind you where we started, here is this eye with nothing on it, nothing on the eyebrow or anything, and then my done up lifted eye. Let me go get this one caught up. I went ahead and got the other eye caught up, and here's how the full face of makeup turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this more kind of in-depth tutorial for hooded eyes or slightly hooded eyes like mine. As always, I'm gonna list and link all the products and brushes that I used today down below, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.